Yeah, we're going to be getting into the week 7 picks right now. We were talking a little bit about Devontae Adams and the Amari Cooper situation, and we'll get into that a little bit later when we're predicting the Jets game and the Bills game. But obviously, huge additions for both offenses. Both are really great wide receivers, and we'll see how that plays out, right? So, week 6, I went 12-2 in my picks, and in week 7, I'm going to go 14-0 or 15-0 or however many games there are. So, let's get into that. All right. So, here is the picks. Oh, sorry. All right, week 7. If it's going to load. What is going on, dude? That's really awesome, man. You love it when the Wi-Fi just starts to suck out of nowhere, right? So, all right. Anyway, so here's the week 7 pick. Sorry for the technical difficulties already here today. Let's hope. All right. All right, there we go. Yeah, the stream did take a dir. It took a dir, but it is what it is, right? So, Thursday night. This is not tomorrow's matchup. The next day, 2 days from now, we got the Broncos playing the Saints, and we got rookie quarterback Bo Nix versus rookie quarterback Spencer Rattler, who took the field for the first time ever last week, right? So, um, sorry about that. So, Broncos, they have had a top 10 defense so far in EPA and DVOA this year, and same thing with the Saints. The Saints obviously started out so hot on offense, and it's kind of slowed down now here that they've played some real teams, right? So they're on a 0-4 little slumber here. They've lost their last 4 games. They started out 2-0, and the Broncos are now 3-3. They were 3-2, lost to the Chargers last week, and the Saints lost to the Bucks. This is kind of a tough one because you got the short week, you got 2 rookie quarterbacks. I don't really think the Broncos are too crazy good, right? I kind of think it's a little phony. It's almost like that Giants team with Daniel Jones when they made the playoffs that year, where they're just barely winning each week, week in and week out. It's just one score games, and every single week the Broncos are winning or losing by a one score. So I'd expect the same here with the Saints. However, I do like the Saints' offensive weapons better. I think their run game and their run blocking has been fantastic, and the Drew Petzing system there that they kind of run, the Shanahan type of deal that you got there. You have you just have maulers on the offensive line, in all honesty, and Alvin Kamara I think could be due for a big week. But also the Broncos have been very good against the run and against the pass, right? So you have some of the best cornerbacks in the game on your side of the field. So maybe you'll be able to shut down the Saints, who are going to be without Olave, who went down with a concussion last week. So this is kind of a tough one. It is a home game. I do believe in Spencer Rattler. I do like Alvin Kamara, and I like the run game and the play calling a lot better than the Broncos. So I think I'm going to pick the Saints. I've really leaning towards the play caller, and then the O lines and the D line, and the defense as a whole. And I think the Saints have a better offensive line than the Broncos. I think they have the better run game and the better running back. And I think they have the better play caller in Drew Petzing, right? So I'll take the Saints over the Broncos in this one. Let's do a little preview. Let's see what the line is. So Denver actually is favored by 2.5 points. Yeah, Derek Carr is not going to play in this one. It's most likely going to be. All right. So yeah, Chris Olave probably won't play, but then everybody else on the Saints, active list probably will, and except for Derek Carr, right? So Saints need this one if they want to keep up in the NFC South, and the Broncos are kind of still in a rebuild mode, right? So I'll take the Saints in this one. And now next up, we have the Mac Jones revenge game. I think this will be a fun one. Mac Jones won't see the field most likely, right? But you got Drake May in his second ever start. You got Trevor Lawrence, who's trying to get back on track still. He had, an all right game against the Bears, but he had a good week the week prior. And you got a Jags team that might be firing Doug Peterson soon, right? I've been talking about this every single stream, right? When is Doug Peterson going to get fired? Are they going to try to make any moves? The O-line's not very good. The run game isn't getting anything going. Is it a play calling thing? Is it an X's and O's thing? What's going on, right? So who knows what's going on in the Jags building? But I do know what's going on in the Patriots building is they have a really good defense. And they have a really good quarterback who I think has so much potential. Drake May can slide all around in the pocket. His pocket presence is very good. He can hit throws from all different types of angles, and he can, just make any S-tier throw on the field, right? Whether it's from the far right hash all the way to the left, right? So he can hit deep throws. He can hit crazy angles, and he doesn't have the best offensive line or the best receiving core, but I really liked what I saw out of this team last week against the Texans, which there was a couple mistakes that did happen. I think Drake May lost a fumble and had two interceptions, right? But one of them wasn't really all his fault. And the first one was like the first drive of the game, right? And he just kind of airmailed it. He was a little juiced up, right? So I am going to take the Patriots here. I can see this being a nice little upset win. I wouldn't be surprised if they were like favored by 1.5. Jaguars are favored by 5.5 points. I just don't see it, dude. The Jaguars' defense is like horrific. I don't think the Jaguars have a very good defense. I think the Patriots do, even without Jabril Peppers. I think Christian Gonzalez is awesome. And I can see him locking up Brian Thomas Jr. And then what are you going to be able to get after that, right? You do have Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, but you don't have a run game with the Jags. And Trevor Lawrence has been not particularly himself, right? So he hasn't been hitting those S-tier throws that you'd like him to hit, and he's not hitting all the easy stuff as well. So I am going to take the Patriots in this one, and Drake May gets his first career win versus the Jags. So, yeah, I think that sounds about right. I don't know about you guys, if you guys think that's right, but it sounds right to me. Next up, I have to preview this one. Sorry. So, will Tariq Woolen play? Will Byron Murphy play? See, I want to view the injury report, but okay. All right, this works. Justin Simmons, he'll play. That's really all that matters, right? These guys have all been out for like kind of a while now, right? So, Seattle, I think it's very interesting to note how the defensive line is going to be playing because they've been so injured. And if they're still injured in this one, is Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson going to run all over them? Yes. But if they're not super injured, are they going to run all over them? Probably not, are they? Right? So, holy. Look at that 49ers list, man. That is rough. All right, so Uchenna Nwosu put on IR 5 days ago. I didn't see that. All right, so Uchenna Nwosu's on IR, so that's one of their edge rushers. And you got some other edge rushers that are ghosts on the field, right? Nothing about Byron Murphy, nothing about Tariq Woolen. So, all right. That's kind of all we really needed to know was Byron Murphy going to play? Was Tariq Woolen going to play? So, let's say they both play. Let's say they're able to shut down Drake London or slow down Drake London and slow down the run game. I think this could be a really good game for the Seahawks. However, that's if everybody's healthy. They might be able to slow down this run game. They might be able to slow down Drake London. And they haven't really been able to do that, right? Like, it's been awesome, but the Seahawks are injured, and the Falcons aren't as injured. And they have the primary strength that has been the Seattle Seahawks weakness, right? It's been their downfall this whole season, and it's been stopping the run, right? They haven't been able to stop the run, and because of it, teams have been able to throw all over the field as well because of it, right? You had all these play-action deep shots, hit stuff over the middle of the field. You've had a bunch of linebackers that have been out, D linemen that have been out, O linemen that have been out, and the Falcons don't really have that, right? I think the Falcons have the better offensive weapons, right? And Bijan and Pitts and Drake London and Mooney over like DK and Lockett and JSN and K9. They're all really awesome, but the Falcons also have a way better offensive line. And I think their quarterback is a little bit better than Geno Smith, right? I think Kirk Cousins is a little bit better. So I think the Falcons continue to roll. They go 5-2, and the Seahawks lose 4 straight in this matchup against Atlanta in Atlanta. So Atlanta, probably better in the trenches. Probably a better run game. And they just need to get a couple stops on defense, right? Really? Are the Seahawks going to be able to stop the Falcons all game? Probably not, right? They couldn't stop the 49ers or the Lions. So, we'll see. Now, next up, they also couldn't stop the Giants. Don't forget that, right? They couldn't stop Tyrone Tracy Jr. So, I mean, I got to take the Bills easy, 99%. The Bills. You just added Amari Cooper. That is going to be a very dangerous wide receiver core, I think. You got Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, Ray Davis. I think everybody's coming along really nicely, and they're gelling really well together. And now if you add Amari Cooper on top of that, things are looking really good, right? So, on top of that, Will Levis has not been very good. The run game's been pretty fine. Tony Pollard's been pretty good ball, right? Tony Pollard has been playing some of his best football, right? However, L'Jarius Sneed has not lived up to what he's been needing to do, right? He's just not the cornerback that you expected for after trading, a second-round pick to the Chiefs and then paying him all that money. And then you also got a whole bunch of other guys in Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams who are always injured. And the defense is just not living up to the expectations that you might have thought at the beginning of the season. Granted, injuries do play a factor in everything. And then Will Levis is just not taking a step that you might have hoped with the offensive coordinator, Callahan, that came over from the Bengals offense, right? So you're not getting necessarily the passing game that you wish for, and then you're not able to really do a whole lot on defense as well. So they're not ranking entirely high in EPA or DVOA in those metrics. So I don't really spend a whole lot of time on the Titans. I also don't watch a whole lot of Titans game, but from what I know, I'd have to say the Bills are going to win this game in dominant fashion. Josh Allen also, by the way, has not thrown a pick in 6+ games now, which is the longest stretch in his career. So continue to roll Josh Allen and show why I think you're going to win the MVP this year. So Bills win this one. Next up, we got the Bengals and the Browns, and I do like to take a lot of upsets. This is not one of those matchups, though, because the Browns' offense is worse than the Bengals' defense. The Bengals have, one of the worst defenses that I've seen in a long time. Not as bad as the Panthers or not as bad as the Commanders, I don't think, but it's going to be... It's obviously not very good, right, in DVOA and EPA, all those metrics, right? But the Cleveland Browns offense happens to be a lot worse. And when's the last time they scored a touchdown on offense, right? The defense is baller, but are they going to be able to slow down Joe Burrow, who is on a crazy, mean, hot streak right now? He's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, right? I mean, he normally does, but he's first in QBR and completion percentage? He's top 5 in yards and touchdowns? He's awesome, man. And Trace Brown had a pretty good game last week. He had a little, issues, obviously, that you want to fix up. But in that second half, he really went off, and he sealed the game with a 40-yard-plus touchdown. So Chase Brown, I hope, continues to roll. I've been on the Chase Brown, train for a while. But also you got Chase and Higgins and Ishavas, who's been rolling, and Jermaine Burton and Gesicki. So this is a much-needed for the win for the Bengals, and I think this is probably the last game that Watson starts if I had to guess. So if things continue to not be good, then it's either this week or next week. I think that you're out on Watson, right? You got to try to win games. And if you're Kevin Stefanski, so from what I've heard also, though, is Kevin Stefanski does not have a say in it. The owners want Deshaun Watson to keep starting. So you don't know exactly the full extent of what's going on in the building there. But I couldn't expect Watson being under the helm for much longer, especially with Nick Chubb's return, right? And how fast are you going to ramp him up? Is he going to get carries in this game? We don't know, but we're all excited for Nick Chubb's return, and we're glad to see it happen. So Bengals win this one, and we're going on to the next matchup, which is the Texans and Packers. I've been excited about this game all year because it's C.J. Stroud versus Jordan Love, who were so dominant in the second half of last season and had that awesome playoff performance where they had identical stats, which was cool. Jordan Love's starting to roll. He's playing pretty good football. Um, but so are the Texans, right? So I think in last episode I called it Texans-Lions Super Bowl. I think the Texans are spectacular. I do think the Packers are just as good, though, right? I like the Texans secondary a little bit better, and I like their edge rushers and their pass rush, right, a lot better than the Packers. However, the Packers do lead the league in takeovers, which is takeaways, sorry, which is a huge thing. I'd like to see how the Packers' run game matches up against the Texans' run game. I think that'd be very interesting. And then the Texans are going to be without Nico Collins. So, Packers, they're at full strength. They got Jacobs. They got Jordan Love. They have all their wide receiver weapons that are going to be playing. Watson's playing. Dobbs is playing. Jaden Reed's, he's questionable. He was banged up in the last game and was forced out, I believe, right? So, but you got Jaden Reed and you got the tight ends. Maybe this is a game that the Packers win, and the Texans need a little bit of adversity to make their playoff run, right? You need to learn how to lose and how to win, right? So I'm going to take the Packers in this one. They're in home. They're in Lambeau. They're at home. They're going to be fully healthy. The Texans are still awesome without Nico Collins, but they are going to be without Nico Collins, who's like been a top 5 wide receiver. Like he's like leading the league in receiving yards, and he didn't even play last week, right? So, but you're going to be without him. So, Texans secondary let up a couple big plays last week against Drake May, and Demario Douglas had a really nice catch. Jalen Polk was looking pretty nice in that one as well. So, I'm going to take the Packers in this one. I think it'll be a close game. This is like a field goal game. This isn't something I would lock if I were you, but like I would totally lock the Bengals and the Bills, and that's about it, right? But this should be a really close one. This should be a toss up, and we'll see how it plays out. But I think maybe Jordan Love outduels C.J. Stroud because maybe the defense plays a little bit better. They've been creating so many takeaways and turnovers every single week, so maybe you'll see that again in this one, right? Next up, you got the Dolphins versus the Colts, and I feel obliged to take the Colts in this one, right? With no Tua, I just can't pick the Dolphins in any game. I don't have any faith in Tyler Huntley. I don't have any faith in whoever might be playing if it's not Tyler Huntley, right? Skylar Thompson. Is Achane even playing? He's been banged up, and the defense has been banged up, and the Colts are able to win even without Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, who I think are supposed to come back this week. So if they come back, I think this should be a pretty good win for the Colts, which is what I said last week, right, against the Titans, which they won without them again. So I'll take the Colts in this one. I just can't pick the Dolphins without Tua. Now, 61% of people picked the Lions. I wanted to be different and pick the Lions this week. I didn't think so many people would be picking the Vikings. The Vikings are favored in this one. 2.5, they're favored by a field goal pretty much. So I do think Jared Goff is the better quarterback. I do think they have a better run game. I think they have a better O-line. But how are the Vikings front seven and their defense going to match up versus this Lions front seven, right? And then notably, the opposite is true. How is the Lions front seven going to match up against the Vikings offensive line, who they have a very good offensive line? They both have very good offensive lines, right? This whole division except for the Bears, right? But whatever. Vikings, I think, have the better receiving core. They have a pretty good O-line, and they have the way better defense. And it's a home game. And are they coming off a bye week? Yes, they are. So if they're coming off a bye week, man, this is such a tough one, man, because I totally called Amon-Ra St. Brown having 40 points. So would that mean Jared Goff has to play out of his mind? You're coming off such a huge win against the Cowboys, and now you're going to play a Vikings team that is coming off a bye week? Do the Vikings go 6-0, chat? Do they go 6-0? Man, I don't know. I don't know if the Vikings go 6-0, though. I think that's why 61% of the people have picked the Lions. Lions-Vikings shootout. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 139 yards, 11 catches, 2 touchdowns. Gibbs and Montgomery combined for over 175 and a touchdown or two. 2 touchdowns, over 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns or more. 175 yards rushing on the team. But then Justin Jefferson also has a masterclass and goes off, and the Vikings win. Vikings will force an interception at least from Jared Goff. The front seven's awesome. Brian Flores, defensive mastermind, is going to cook up the best blitzes you've ever seen. And they're going to beat the Lions. So, I guess I'll be different and pick the dog, even though they're not dogs, to beat the Lions. And I'm going to take the Eagles versus the Giants. There's not a whole lot for me to say here. Daniel Jones is not very good. And the Eagles are now almost at full power on the offense. They're not even at full strength on offense, and they're looking better than they have, right? So you got A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and you're ramping them back up. And you got Saquon. And I think they should continue to roll, and I think the Eagles should win the division, right? So Giants just aren't there. They need a quarterback. They need an offensive line, and they could use a couple different pieces as well throughout the wide receiving core and the run game. And they're just like a year away from being a year away, but without the quarterback. So that could honestly be forever, but we don't know. Now, next up, we got the Rams versus the Raiders. Rams are 1-4. Did anybody see that coming? I did. I didn't call 1-4, but I said they'd be last in the division. In my division review. You can check that out on the YouTube channel, by the way. You can fact check me on it. That's why I had the Seahawks being second, the Cardinals being third, and the Rams being fourth. However, they probably wouldn't have that record if they were healthy, correct? Is there one win versus the 49ers? That is crazy. That is just weird. They're going to beat the Raiders. Better quarterback, better run game, coming off a bye week. Cooper Kupp's coming back. Defense should be getting healthier. And Raiders might be without Zamir White, I think. Obviously going to be without Devontae Adams. And then your quarterback can't really do much. They looked horrific last week, right? So, I'm going to take the Rams in this one. They're coming off a bye week. They should feel fresh and win this game versus the Raiders. But I think this should be a weird game. I probably won't watch this game. This is not a game I'd be excited for. There's also a ton of other games that I'm excited for, right? Like, this game's exciting. And this game's exciting. Which I don't know why these are 11 o'clock games, by the way. Why is this an 11 o'clock game? Why is this an 11 o'clock game? Why is this an 11 o'clock game? I mean, I'm very excited about this one, but come on, man. Jets Steelers? Jets Steelers, man. And then 2 Monday nights. Bucks Ravens. I think I'd rather have Packers Texans. But that's just me. So next up, I got to take the Commanders over the Panthers. Go 5-2. I did talk about Jaden Daniels. He is fantastic. I have now caved. I still have Drake May and Caleb Williams above him. I still think they're awesome, by the way. But that doesn't mean Jaden Daniels isn't awesome, right? The way he can feel pressure and move around in the pocket is special. And he's also just so athletic, and I think the play calling has been fine. They do a lot of interesting things. I like the way they can design their quarterback runs and get some guys open, which is really fun. So we got a little Theo appearance, right? Theo wants to join the stream, but Panthers defense is just as bad as the Commanders, and I think the Commanders offense is so much more explosive. However, I would expect a huge Chuba Hubbard game, so if you got him on fantasy, that's an instant start, right? So a lot of stuff I'd be excited for. But I'm taking the Commanders in this one. I don't think it's close either. Dang, Theo's trying to fight me. All right, so next up, I'm taking the 49ers in this one. I came into this stream knowing I was going to take the 49ers. Chiefs' best running back is Kareem Hunt in 2024, and then their best wide receiver right now is Juju Smith-Schuster. And on the contrary, the 49ers, although they're out, like Christian McCaffrey's not out, and Jordan Mason might not play, Isaac Guerrero would still be the running back one, I think, on the Chiefs. And then their defense is still pretty awesome. Yes, we saw the injury list earlier. It's a very long list, but you got Ayuk, you got Debo, you have that offensive line, you got the Super Bowl matchup, and I think this 49ers team is better than that team last year in that Super Bowl, I'd say. Maybe not better, but where they compare to the Chiefs now is better than in the Super Bowl, right? And I don't think Mahomes has looked particularly like Mahomes this year, right? He hasn't been amazing. Obviously, he doesn't have the weapons to be amazing, which I'm surprised this team wasn't a Amari Cooper trade. How did they not match that, or maybe even try to give a better deal than the Bills did? Who knows? But Chiefs couldn't get an Amari Cooper trade done. They couldn't get a Devontae Adams trade done. Um, and it is what it is. But I think the 49ers are just more. They're just talented all over the board, and Kyle Shanahan is a great play caller. Obviously, he hasn't been able to beat Andy Reid and the Chiefs, but maybe he gets over the hump in this regular season matchup at home versus the Chiefs, right? That home field advantage should be a huge deal, I think. And they're just like the Chiefs are without Pacheco. They're without Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy's not too crazy, I don't think. And maybe the 49ers are able to game plan a little bit better than the Chiefs. So I'm taking the 49ers in this one. If you guys disagree, just let me know. I'd like to know why. If it's because it's Patrick Mahomes, I get it. If it's because Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I totally get it. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce. But this should be a really awesome game, I think. Next up, I got to take the Jets in this one. Yeah, they're coming off a rough loss versus the Bills. But you're trading for Davante Adams. So now you have Garrett Wilson and Tay and Mike Williams and Breece Hall. That maybe things start to get going better. And I thought they looked pretty good against the Bills. Yes, the Steelers have a better defense than the Bills, but they definitely don't have a better offense. I think this is a team that matches up terribly against the Jets defense, right? I feel like the Jets should be able to shut down Wilson or Justin Fields, whoever starts there, right? But I mean, you have an S tier secondary, right? You have one of the best secondary groups in all of football. You have one of the best, front sevens in all of football. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, and then that supercharged wide receiver core and running back room that you have now, right? The only struggles I'd say is the offensive line. So TJ Watt, I would expect at least 2 sacks from him, man. You can lock that in now, but we'll see. Now, next up, we have the Ravens on Monday night versus the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are rolling, but so are the Ravens. So, spoiler, I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. Just a little stat line for you. Baker Mayfield was 1 for 11 when throwing past the sticks. Not past the sticks, I guess. Past 10 yards down the field throughout the game, right? 1 for 11 and 2 interceptions. And on top of that, how is that run game going to play against the Ravens? I don't know. Are they going to be able to get the run going against the Ravens? I don't really think so. The Commanders weren't able to really get the run game going against the Ravens as well. And Sean Tucker and Bucky Irving looked really nice, and you got Rachaad White maybe coming back, and you have a whole bunch of wide receiver weapons as well. But is that going to be better than the Ravens and Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and what they've been able to do the last few weeks? I don't think so. The matchup nightmare between Lamar and Henry in the backfield is just crazy, man. And that's why Derrick Henry is having his career high in yards per carry, right? He's leading the league in carries and yards and touchdowns, and he's playing phenomenally. Lamar's playing fantastic football. He's been so efficient lately, and he doesn't even need all the wide receivers in the world because he's just going to make the right decision, and he's just going to win, and that's just kind of what Lamar does, right? And is that what Baker does? I don't think so. Baker's not consistent on a week-to-week basis that Lamar Jackson is. And I think this is a really big prove-it game for the Bucs and the Ravens. I'd really like to see the Ravens win this game, but I'd also like to see the Bucs win this game. Is Baker going to be able to be consistent? Can Baker beat an elite defense like the Ravens? Who knows? And we'll see this weekend. So until proven otherwise, I'm going to take the Ravens, and I'm going to pick the Ravens until proven otherwise as well, right? Like, they're probably one of the best teams in the league. And you got to prove it. You got to prove that you can beat this team. And same thing with the Ravens. You got to prove that you're not the top dog anymore, and they haven't done that, right? Like, they haven't lost a game where I'm like, all right, like, Ravens are kind of iffy, right? So kind of like the Bengals, right? The Bengals have been proven like they're not in it this year, right? But yeah, the Ravens had that loss versus the Raiders, but that was a really weird game. I was watching the Boise State game this weekend, and they had a very similar issue where it was like the Ravens chain gang guy had a heart attack, but in this Boise State game, the Boise State offense was kind of rolling, and the defense was rolling. And then there's injury and ejection, and then the ref has a heart attack or he has to get ambulanced off the field, and they're just like they're just dead, man. There's no pulse, there's nothing going on, and that kind of just that can ruin like your team's mentality and ruin how you play in the game. And I think that's kind of what happened in that Raiders game, right? Like they were rolling, and then just out of nowhere, right? Not really out of nowhere, but after some significant events, Raiders started turning it around. And then their first loss was by like an inch, right? Literally like an Isaiah Likely, Kevin Durant situation. So, Ravens are still in it, and until proven otherwise, then they're still in it. Next up, last matchup. I got to lock in the Chargers here, man. I don't think the Cardinals are going to have Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think without them like that, they're not going to win a whole lot of football games, man. It looked rough out there without them. And Kyler Murray looked really rough out there without Marvin Harrison Jr. because he draws so many double teams. His double team percentage is very high. It's probably at, one of the highest ever for a rookie wide receiver. But he's looked great. And then the Chargers defense has been like the best defense in the league, right? If I'm not mistaken, per DVOA and EPA. I don't have a PFF subscription, so I'm not entirely tapped in. But from the charts I've seen, they've had the best defense, right? And then on top of it, their run game's better than the Cardinals. They have a better quarterback. And their weapons are probably just about the same without Marvin Harrison Jr., right? So I think the Cardinals are in the right direction, but, with some injuries not going their way and, some things going there, it's just not entirely what you want. So it happens, man. So that was the Week 7 preview. We'll talk a little bit more about the Davante Adams trade. I don't think it's going to make the Jets a Super Bowl contender. I don't think it pushes them over the edge. I don't think this is a team that's going to be able to compete with the Ravens or the Chiefs. I don't think it's a team that's going to compete with the Bills, although it was close, on Monday night. But they just traded for Amari Cooper, right? So they're just as talented still. And then are they going to be able to compete with other teams in the AFC as well? Like, those aren't the other teams. There's the Texans. There's what else? The Colts. There's some fun AFC teams, right? So I don't think it really pushes the Jets over the edge. It'll make them a lot better to watch, and I think it should make them a playoff lock, and they should go on a nice little stretch here. But I just couldn't see it, man. And Aaron Rodgers just always finds a way to lose, big football games somehow, especially in the playoffs, right? When's the last time Aaron Rodgers went to the Super Bowl? 2010. So, and then on top of that, we'll talk about the Amari Cooper team. I do think this makes the Bills a Super Bowl contender. I do think they were like literally an X Factor wide receiver away from being a Super Bowl contender. I didn't think the Diggs loss would be much of a problem. I think it was a lot better for the chemistry and the locker room, and maybe made Josh Allen a little bit better of a quarterback. However, they did lose a lot of juice, and they didn't have a guy that could win. And Amari Cooper is a guy that can just go out there and win. He can win at the line. He can, route anybody up and catch the football at any place on the field and make plays for any football team. And that's something that the Bills needed. And that's something that the Bills are going to have. So this should be a great team. We'll see them competing in that. See who that is? Look at that. Oh. You got an Ivy appearance. Look who couldn't fall asleep. She's awake. We got an Ivy special appearance on the Twitch stream. Can we get a rah? We probably won't because we're ending the stream. So, let's go put Ivy to bed. Maybe read her a story. Thank you guys for tuning into the Twitch stream. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to go down in the link in the description so I can feed Ivy. So, thank you guys and have a great night.